I could tell you that I didn't mean to do it. I could tell you it was just a random happenstantial tick of the imagination design process, that it was an idiosyncratic fluke which I later dressed up in some slapdash lore and then decided to release into the internet wilds for the memes. But that would all be a whole cart and pile of horse manure. The real, hard, honest truth of the matter is that I've already written most of a science fantasy novel series set in a world populated by the mascot host of DeviantArt. And while that setting at large is permissible of mechs to a greater or lesser extent, the actual story itself is not. But rather than let my legion of mechanized creatures, many of which were originally conceived as semi-sentient automatons rather than piloted mechs, continue to languish unloved in an intellectual compost bin, I elected to capitalize on the popularity of my main mech design series here on YouTube to explore down that conceptual road, and maybe possibly lay another stone in the foundation of the same in a single stroke. Further, what many of my newer subscribers probably won't know, and would have little reason to guess, is that the video, or rather videos, that first really got this channel, its legs were speculating upon the psychological roots of furrydom, asking and hypothesizing about what precise mental quirks and or cross-wiring needed to occur in order to incite fascination with anthropomorphized animals. And it's from that same essential vein the fertile lifeblood of this manic little blossom was poured. A wolf in close-quarters brawler that stalks its prey from afar using drones and advanced sensor tech before darting in using the rocket boosters on its back, swiping at its prey's heels, tearing out visceral chunks and then leaping back, watching its hobbled prey bleed out, all the while just waiting for its chance to go for the throat. And as if this whole thought project wasn't surreal enough, whilst I was in the middle of conceiving it, during an entirely unrelated shopping excursion, Amazon decided to show me this thing. And while I declined their strange offer, I took the inspirational spur to heart, and from that emerged, potentially, another keystone for the main mech design series. Behold, the Mech Tech Tiles. Think of them as a capstan drive, which is basically just a motorized winch hooked to a gearbox hooked to a lever with artificial muscle bundles working as the actuators instead of an electric motor, which would compensate for most existing AMF's relatively short action, since the capstan portion doesn't need to turn very far to activate the drive's maximum range. My essential thought is that an end user could purchase, or perhaps otherwise acquire, depending on their needs and the setting, as many of the core tiles as needed to facilitate their design's mold, bolt them together, and then construct a skeletal scaffold around them to produce their own private custom mechs. You might call this over-engineering, and you'd most probably be right, just a little bit. Surely these kit-bashed jigsaw mechs, which I'm going to go forward calling jigs, wouldn't have nearly the same performance levels as a purpose-built machine of the same mold. But they would, I figure, be just effective enough to enable all the little side niches and experimental odd jobs in between the major contracts. Things such as, for example, someone wanting to build a drivable robotic avatar of their favorite fictional idol or paramour, or just the odd jockey looking to spice up his missus that, by himself, wouldn't be nearly lucrative enough to justify the production of entirely new models to satisfy, but as a block could easily be as lucrative a font as any large industrial customer. Now, all that being said and the eminent logic behind copying nature's homework and the self-evident marketability of a mobile power fursuit notwithstanding, seriously, have you seen how much furries spend on their actual fursuits? You could fund a small micronation on it. Assuming we didn't want to go all the way down the Rule 34 route, how would we go about justifying this concept in a semi-realistic, human-centric setting? Well, at first, I thought we could go about it vis-a-vis the Battletech clans, where, in light of the overly destructive potential of our post-conventional arms, we've elected for a system of honorable medieval tournament-style combat. But then I thought about some of the comments I got on the civilian mech video, and it occurred to me, instead of trying to rationalize their integration into an industrial military's combat doctrine, what if mechs were just civilian toys adapted by smaller rebel cells, local militias, and ramshackle mercenary sorts? Personally, I envision a world set in the far distant future, possibly sci-fi, possibly science fantasy, I'm not particularly partial either way, where a band of interstellar pirates have decided to just give the whole war economy the bird. So instead of investing in sensible weapons like guns, nukes, spaceships, or spaceships with nukes and guns, they've gone out and, using whatever bits of hyper-advanced space-age magitech buffoonery they found lying about the extraterrestrial scrapyards, build a squad of elite humanoid warsuits for the sole purpose of meme-flexing so hard over the corporate military hegemonic enterprise that they managed to profit via osmosis. If any of you want to take a creative shot at something like that, be my guest. For myself, right at this present juncture, though, I think that's about as much of my flagrant creativity as the world really needs for one day. I realize this one's been a bit more sporadic than I'm typically known for, but that's just what's liable to happen when you meld 4 separate video concepts into a single script. In any event, thank you for indulging me in my manifest psychosis for this long. You all know the whole YouTuber outro shtick by now. Leave a like and a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel, consider leaving a super thanks tip or becoming a channel member. Check out my books if this sort of abstract delirium appeals to you, etc., etc. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and remember, the only stupid ideas are the ones that don't work. Peace.